Good morning. Hey, y'all. Hey. So, it's Bianca. So, listen, I wanted to share something crazy. So, I was at work, again, having a conversation. Same guy. So, now, we were having a dialogue and whatnot. He asked me something about relationships. So, then he's, of course, like, well, why is that your perspective? And I'm like, Jesus. You know, because whatever it was that I said about relationships, what I said was, I was like, I said, sir, I don't do that. I don't play those games. I'm like, I'm not about to sit there and let some guy be with me for 2, 3, 4, 5 plus years and not marry me. Like, are you crazy? So, but you know, he not saved. So what I said is so countercultural. It's like shocking to people. Like, like, don't you got to take time to get to know him? I said, sir, let me tell you something. If a man knows that he want to marry somebody, he's just gonna marry him. Ain't nobody doing all of that. But see, he's shacking up with his girlfriend, so that's why he thinks the way he thinks. So now, it was another guy that was in there. He felt me though. I don't necessarily know what his beliefs are, but he was nodding his head like, no, I feel what she's saying. Like, I was like, thank you. But that ain't the point. So, but as we were dialoguing, talking, he brought up Christmas and Easter and stuff like that, because, you know, he like so anti-Christian, anti the Bible or whatever. And, you know, I'm not about to keep having this. I swear this is the last conversation, because, you know, the Bible does say, answer not a fool according to his folly, because then y'all both look like fools, period. So, however, the irony about us having this dialogue, though, is that when so another girl came into the conversation. She's, so she was like, yeah. She was like, I don't, because I was like, well, I don't celebrate Christmas and Easter. Now, when she came in where we were at talking, she was like, she didn't know I was a Christian or anything. She probably figures I am probably at this point, but she doesn't know. So, mind you, I never mentioned it. I just said, I don't celebrate those holidays. So, she was like, yeah. She was like, I don't understand why Christians hijacked our holidays. She was like, I'm pagan. She was like, why are they celebrating our holidays? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, I was like, I'm trying to figure that out too, you know? And so, mind you, this girl she's pagan, okay? She said it. So then, so I don't know, it's just crazy, like, how that conversation led to this conversation. And in hindsight, I'm actually glad it did happen, because so later I went up to her. So I said, so you're pagan? And she was like, yeah. And I said, so that's polytheistic, right? And so she was like, correct. And I said, so exactly how many gods are in the pagan religion? So then she just went to share with me how it's so many different variations of paganism. And I was just like, got you. And so then she was just telling me about her family. She's like, you know, she said she's pagan, her mom, her grandma, her dad. She said her dad doesn't practice witchcraft, but he does believe in it. And then she said her grandfather is an atheist. I said, oh, well, that's interesting. I said, well, how does your granddad view you guys? She was like, he thinks we're crazy. You know, they don't believe in no kind of deity. And I was just like, okay. So, now this is later. Now, I brought this up because I wanted to pose a question. While she's talking to me about her, because I'm asking questions, actually, I was inquiring about her beliefs, because that's what I like to do. Because later, and I'm going to love on her, because I'm going to tell her about Jesus. Okay, but I don't got to be like, Jesus. You don't got to do that with everybody. And plus, you know, I think that Christians, we should know about other people's belief systems, because how you gonna counter it? You know what I mean? And a lot of times they don't know. I mean, she young, you know what I mean? She's like 19, you know what I mean? And that's what she was raised in. And she did. And the reason why she was saying what she was saying too about Christians and celebrating paganism and stuff like that, she did share that she had some bad experiences, you know, with church type folks, but they was Catholic, come to find out, you know. And so I did explain to her too when she said she was like, well, why are Christians celebrating pagan holidays? And I explained to her about Constantine in the 1300s and how, you know, he was the Roman emperor at the time, and you know, back then Christians were getting killed for their beliefs. And so he put an end to that. But then what he did was, as a political figure, because he had the power to do so, he ended up, you know, he was trying to appease the pagans and Christians at the same time. So henceforth, that's where Catholicism got birthed. And we know, if you don't know, now you know, Catholicism is pretty much pagan traditions with like a sprinkle of Christianity mixed throughout it, or whatever. And so that's really where the whole, you know, Christmas and Easter kind of comes from, because, you know, Easter really is Ishtar, which is a Greek goddess. Yeah, Greek goddess. And then it's just a lot. Like the Yule log and the mistletoe, all of that is pagan. Okay? But then they come in what is it? I don't know when, you know, I would say within the last like 150 years, you know, then they like, oh, Jesus is the reason for the season and all that kind of stuff. Child, I don't know how you mixed the sacred and the profane, but they did it. They figured it out, child. So anyway, but this is what I'm perplexed about, because I've met pagan people before, but I never really conversed with them this heavily about what they believe in, and her statement was so profound. She really was like, why did they hijack like our religious like holidays? And so I want to know if the pagan witch, and by witch I mean that literally, she identifies herself as a witch. She was like, yeah, I'm a witch. Like, you know, she practices witchcraft, all of that. She was like, if she says this, I want to know the perspective of the pro-Christmas Christians. Why do some of you guys defend these holidays to the death, like tooth and nail, when the pagan girl is wondering the same thing? And I don't care if you celebrate it. I'm not one of them kind of people. Just like I don't care if people vote or not vote. I feel like you got a right to both. Period. And so, but what I do, what is a little confusing to me is that you have certain Christians, and I'm talking about the ones with a platform. Forget about the ones who don't. It's Christians that I follow, that I respect. I still watch them, and I'm still subscribed to their YouTube channels to this day. And they have came out with videos over time defending the fact that they celebrate Christmas and Easter. They'll denounce Halloween, rightfully so, but then they'll like, not all of them, I'm not saying all of them, but I've heard one of them say that the Christians who don't want to celebrate it were legalistic. Now, maybe you are talking about the ones who are like saying like, because you have Christians who don't celebrate it and they'll like speak out against people who do, like, y'all need to quit celebrating it, yada 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 yada. And so, and then you have the ones who do celebrate it, but they kind of just like, they're not really trying to push that you should. They just celebrate it. Okay, so I'm one of the ones who don't celebrate it really. And by really, I mean, like last year, my friend invited me over. But, you know, I was like, well, I'm about to eat this food. But I don't wear none of the apparel, any of that. So, but even before then, I just was kind of like, I don't know, I've always had, it was always something a little eerie about the whole concept of people like, why are we buying gifts and it's supposed to be Jesus' birthday? We know it's not December 25th. That ain't even my issue either. We know this. But it's like, okay, but it's supposed to be his birthday. I don't care what day it is. But why are we buying gifts on somebody else's birthday? When, at what point ever did that make sense? And then the fighting, the videos that come out during the holiday season of people fighting over toaster ovens and crock pots. I'm like, why are y'all fighting over material stuff? This don't even make no sense. You know, I'm like, where's Jesus in this? But I'll probably do another video another day about some of the stuff I had an issue with before I even knew it was pagan. I've heard it was pagan, like, you know, over time, Jehovah's Witnesses have told me this, you know, when I let them come in my house and study back in the day. I'm like, okay, you know, it's pagan. I didn't know what that meant, but I hear you. But when I actually just one day decided to be open and do my own research, I was like, I don't really see why I would want to be associated with this. But anyway, so I digress a lot, but nonetheless, I'm just saying, like, if the pagan girl is saying this, I know she ain't the only pagan that feel this way and whatnot. They may not necessarily come out there with it and make a big deal about it, but it's just kind of like, right. So if she's saying this, why are Christians promoting it as if it's okay? You know what I mean? If you want to do it, but don't, it's like, why? But don't call us legalistic because we're not trying to do it. So I'm gonna actually give y'all some names. I'm gonna drop some names actually, because this ain't to bash them or nothing like that, but I just want people to go and just see that I'm not lying. So, like, for example, so this is one of the things they'll say when they are promoting Christmas. They'll say, oh, well, the days of the week are pagan. True. And the calendar months are pagan. Also true. But what about that? Boom. Let me give you some logic real quick. The fact that the days of the week and the calendar months are named after pagan Greek gods, I have no control over. I have control over what I can control, which is what I choose to celebrate. That's what I have control over. You know what I mean? So then like I heard Marcus Rogers, he might have said this. He's one of the ones, and he might have said this. If it wasn't him, it was someone else. Like, oh, well, pagans, they invented toothbrushes. Okay, and but they'll say this like, so what, you not gonna brush your teeth? An invention, someone's religious beliefs, and an invention as far as something that's going to clean my teeth is not the same as a holiday that they have created to celebrate and worship their deities. That's not the same. I wish they would stop saying that. That's like yoga. It's not exercise. That is a religious practice for Hindus and Buddhists. All them little poses. Well, Buddhism is actually kind of really like atheism, but it's a spin-off of Hinduism. Do your research, child. But Hinduism, all them poses that they're doing, particularly this one, the lotus pose. Listen, they're posing for their gods, okay? They're paying homage, just like how Christians, we pray, all right? We worship, praise and worship, you know, living as a living sacrifice. We you know, again, go to church, everything that goes along with being a Christian, reading the Bible. That's what we do to give homage to our God, you know, Yahweh, the true and living God. Okay, so I'm not gonna do anything that somebody in another religion that I don't believe in, any practice that they do that's paying homage to their gods, I'm not gonna participate in. You know what I mean? And so that's exactly what Easter and Christmas, the original names of the holidays, now they didn't change the name over time, but and again, they sprinkled in the Christian stuff. But before Constantine did all of that, you know, what we know as Christmas is what they recognized as the winter solstice, okay? Because not only did they have so many deities, you know, they also worship like the moon, the sun, and all of that stuff. So they came just like, you know, Jewish, they have Yom Kippur, the Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. I can go on and on and on. So the same holidays that we know as Christmas and Easter, they were you know, they were originally, and well, they technically still are holidays that pagan people have done to celebrate their deities. I know I said it about 2 times, but I'm just trying to drive the point in. So I don't understand why Christians who are pro-Christmas and pro-Easter, I don't know why they keep using the days of the week, the calendar months, whatever other things pagans invented. Well, hold on. Anyway, I don't know why they're using, I almost confused myself. And I'm driving, so I'm trying to pay attention. But I don't know why they're using, I don't know why they keep saying that. Because it's not the same thing. Do you understand so many things that we use that unbeliever, you know, or non-Christian has invented that we use on a day-to-day that has been enhancing our life? I'm pretty sure this car I don't know what Henry Ford believed. Oh, I don't have a Ford. I got a Hyundai. But I'm just saying, like, you know, he created the assembly line and things like that. But that's not giving homage to a deity. It's the assembly line, you know, of the car. You know, it's helping me drive to my job quicker. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the same thing as a religious practice. Like, so bringing up toothbrushes or whatever else pagan people or the pagans have invented as a way to enhance something, that's not the same. You know what I mean? And I just don't know why they say that. That is just really mind-boggling to me. And so, but yeah, so like I listened to G. Craig Lewis. He did a sermon, you know, about Christmas, and so did Pastor Steven Anderson. He's a Baptist pastor. So I listen to a spectrum of different people. I don't just listen to one type of preacher, because I just feel like that's kind of limiting, or whatever. But nonetheless, you know, it's just like, don't call me legalistic if I don't want to celebrate a pagan holiday, but you promoting that women should not wear pants. G. Craig did not say this, just so y'all know. But the Pastor Steven Anderson believes that women shouldn't wear pants or wear braided up hair and things like that. Now let's since I brought it up, let's talk about this braided up hair for a second. King James Version. Any other version would say braided up hair. I believe Paul wrote it. It says, you know, women should dress modestly and not in costly array or braided up hair or gold or pearls or stuff like that, you know. And basically, I think it says something about bringing attention to themselves, but maybe not that part. But it does say women should dress modestly. I remember I was praying and I was like, Lord, please help me with this. So then God was actually teaching me. That was one of the things that God pointed out to me. He said you have to look for a key phrase, which is what we learned in English class. And boom, modesty stuck out to me. And then I said, oh, right. I said, so if a little girl is wearing 2 braided pigtails, you know, pigtails and some cute little braids, I said, you telling me this little girl is being pagan and she not modest? No. It's a freaking hairstyle. Here's the thing. When you understand the culture back then, in the Greek culture that Paul was talking about, I'm pretty sure Paul wrote it, but if not, I'm sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But what he was referring to is that the pagan women, well, he was talking to the church, because when you get saved, y'all know how even today when Christians get saved, they still have residue of the world on them. Just like when I first got saved, I was still twerking. I was still listening to Nicki Minaj. Okay, so it was the same thing back then. He like, hey, let me teach y'all a little something, because now you've been born again, you've been renewed. All right. So you gonna have Egypt still on you. You know, you're gonna have remnants of that, the Greek culture on you. That's why we're supposed to be not conformed to the world. But nonetheless, the pagan women, they had their hair all weaved up, and it was like huge and just elaborate, like they were trying to get attention, because that's what they were doing. They had on all of these bracelets. Like, it's not the bracelet in and of itself, but it's like the overdoing. You know, they went overboard with it. A whole bunch of makeup, you know, a lot of like just a whole bunch of just expensive jewelry on, but it was just like too much. You know, it just wasn't modest or whatever. Just like, it remind me this is probably extreme too, but in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, if anybody's seen that movie, had the one guy in there, he had on so much jewelry, he was practically just covered in it. I believe that's what the movie, but nonetheless, it's just like, that's kind of like it's almost in a sense like that. Not that was just a movie, so you know they silly and whatnot. But oh, I'm at work now. But yeah, like that's what he was talking about. He wasn't saying you couldn't have your hair braided. You know, like, huh? You know, so like that's legalistic. You know, and it's usually just a lack of understanding. But I don't know. Some Christians might say I'm legalistic because I don't want to celebrate Christmas, stuff like that. But I don't even promote that. You don't even know I don't celebrate Christmas unless I told you. You know what I mean? Like, but I just look at it like deity wise. Like, if this is a practice that somebody in another religion is doing, and they're giving homage to their gods, that's when I have to question it. Like, well then why would I want to participate in this? You know, I don't feel comfortable with that or whatever. But wearing a tennis bracelet, I'm not giving homage to no pagan gods because I wore a bracelet. No, you know, or whatever. Because at the end of the day, God created diamonds and gold and stuff like that, you know. But we know sometimes certain people just take things to the max or whatever, and that's exactly what they did. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If I got more to say, I'll come back. All right, toodles.